up, my mages? We are already on part 6 of the ArenaCraft Kaldheim Constructed Set review. Damn, there are a lot of these, and we love bringing them to you, so enjoy this one and keep an eye out for more coming. I almost read Flame Tongue Kavu for you, CGB.
But then you realize that's not what the card is.
It's not the card.
That ain't it.
So we're going to move swiftly on to Weathered Runestone. This is an artifact, costs 2 generic mana at uncommon, and it reads, non-land permanent cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield, and players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. Okay, so this is basically Grafdigger's Cage, but it is expanded from creatures to be non-land permanents. So is that worth the upgrade in the mana cost, or the downgrade, as it were?
No, but it doesn't matter because Grafdigger's Cage isn't standard legal, and Rogues needs to stay busted, so now they have this.
Yep. Are they going to play this? Do you think they will?
Yeah, you can't escape a card.
Yeah,
you can't use an escape card when this is in play.
Is that worth a card out of their deck?
Against decks that use escape cards to abuse them, yes. Now, will those decks be popular? Maybe. I do think Rakdos is going to be better. I think there's multiple cards for Rakdos that matter. And this doesn't solve Aegon, but Heartless Act and Drown in the Loch do. So, yeah, I'm 100% in best of 3 land, all about Weathered Runestone in my Rogue sideboard. Way better than fighting back with Cling to Dust, in my opinion, unless you're specifically in the mirror, which, if they have this, then Cling doesn't do anything.
How many do you run in the Rogue sideboard? 2?
2's good. 3 maybe. Depends how important that matchup is.
Mm-hmm. I mean, this is definitely a slam dunk against any graveyard deck. Like, you 100% bring this in against, like, the Kroxa decks and the Woestrider decks, and it can pretty much be a game over if you get one of these down.
Can I just say I really appreciate this being an uncommon?
Yeah, dude, I'm so with you. Yeah, the Grafdigger being at rare was so stupid, dude. It really was. Having said that, this is going to clog up a lot of limited drafts.
See, I was wondering, does that mean, this is going to be like last pick in limited, but I was wondering, are you happier about your rare spot possibly being something better in limited than an uncommon spot?
That's a good point. Yep, that's a good point. It's a trade-off. I mean, here's the thing. Limited always has just like silly cards that wheel that no one wants to play. So it's probably fine, and I do agree that, like getting Grafdigger's Cage in your rare slot for your pack 1 pick 1 does really suck. So, all right, Overall, I'm feeling you, CGB. Cool. So Weathered Runestone, nothing else to say other than that. This card's just going to be super excellent against the decks it's going to be super excellent against, and that's basically that. Squash, 4 and a red, instant at common. This spell costs 3 less to cast if you control a giant. Squash deals 6 damage to target creature or planeswalker. So I guess just probably worth it in your giants deck if you have a giants deck, and if you're worried about creatures and planeswalkers, right?
Yeah, I think that people are trying. I mean, obviously they're giving us enough Giants Matters cards to specifically get people believing in a giant themed archetype. And there's a number of cards that have already been spoiled that we've talked about that want excess damage. Now, all of those cards, we look at them and we're like, where do you get excess damage? I don't know if that's any good, but for example, Agar, the Freezing Flame, says whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess damage, then you draw a card. Yeah. So that is one thing. There's another one. I think it's just down there. Is it Teralf, God of Fury?
So you can deal the excess to any other permanent.
Yep.
Or person.
Yeah, any target, any excess damage. And we also just covered a card called Dual Strike, which can copy a cheap spell. Although I don't know if that works in this case, because it's natural.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Its natural casting cost is 5. So I don't think it does.
My biggest issue with this card is that I imagine a plausible play pattern for the Giants deck is that you want your removal to hit early, because once your Giants come down, isn't the game just all about your Giants?
It should be.
I don't imagine you being that scared of your opponent's deck, like your opponent's creatures, once you have your giants down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that could be an issue with the card. I mean, I guess it's still cool to be able to just like one-shot your opponent's Ashiok, or maybe like one-shot your opponent's beast that was about to get an Embercleave on it or something like that. So it could still be relevant, but I'm just wondering, you know what I mean?
I still need another 3 mana giant that's good on its own.
Yeah.
Because with Bone Crusher, I'm totally fine doing this, but I'm not going to draw Bone Crusher every game. If you give me another automatic 4 of giant that costs 3 mana, then I'll start considering Squash.
Mm-hmm. This also must get better in the giant mirror match, right?
It doesn't work. Like, how are you just going around squashing other giants? I don't know. The flavor is not there for me.
Flavor fail for sure. Flavor fail for sure. But yeah, so a very situational card. The Giants deck has to be playable, and then this has to hit certain targets at certain times in the game that makes sense. Otherwise, probably won't show up. This one's at least interesting. I just wanted to touch on this one briefly. Avalanche Caller, 1 and a blue, snow creature, human wizard at uncommon. It is a 1/3, and you can pay 2 mana as many times as you would like to have target snowland you control become a 4/4 elemental creature with hexproof and haste until end of turn. It is still a land. Could this card be a finisher?
No.
Doesn't it?
No.
Doesn't it at least seem interesting?
No. The most interesting thing about it for me is that like I'm trying to figure out if this dude's mom ever told him to like wear a coat when he goes out into the Arctic. Like that's the only thing that's going through my head.
Okay, how about the fact that the creature from Dark Depths is like frozen in the snow? Is that interesting to you? What was it, Marit Lage?
That's a fact. Like that's true. Like that is that on this
card?
What's this have to do with this card?
I don't know. Look, Marit Lage.
Yes, the Marit Lage token from Dark Depths is something you have to pay an insane amount of mana and remove ice counters from to get your 20/20 unless you combo it with Thespian Stage. And none of this has anything to do with Magic Arena.
Okay, so you're just off this card.
This is no card for me. I'm no selling you, and it's savage, but this is Arjuna Reed's limited cards for sure.
Hey, that's cool, man. That's cool. I just wanted to get a second opinion. Seemed like a powerful effect to me. I'm not attached to this card. I'm not staking my reputation on this card by any means. All right, let's keep going. Read this one for us.
Cyclone Summoner is 5 blue creature, giant wizard, rare, 7/7. When Cyclone Summoner enters the battlefield, if you cast it from your hand, return all permanents to their owner's hands except for giants, wizards, and lands. I just want to say, it should have allowed you to put a Shark Typhoon or Unpredictable Cyclone from your hand onto the battlefield.
Fail.
Big fail.
Yeah. It should have in parentheses, except Shark Typhoon.
Yeah, sure. That's fine too.
All right, so this is a very powerful effect. Is this the big top-end giant we've been looking forward to?
I mean, I'm not into it. I just... 7 mana for 7/7. And it doesn't hit wizards and giants. And it returns all permanents to their owner's hands. So that includes yours except for wizards and giants and lands. I have a lot of trouble picturing it, but then again, there's also a part of me that says you get it back with ECD or some similar type effect, and that's good. I just like who do you resolve this against, and you're like, got him. Like what matchup is that where what it's about?
Here's what I'm wondering, CGB, is supposing you spent 5 mana to cast this.
Okay.
And supposing you did that because you had cast that saga that you like earlier.
Yeah.
Would that could be pretty gas, right? That could be kind of game over. Like, imagine you're playing against Gruul, right? And on turn 5, you just slam this, return all their stuff. Like, they're probably just done at that
Are you
point,
talking about the
they?
2 mana Is It saga that we argued about for an insane amount of time on a previous podcast? Yes. Yeah. I've already forgotten.
That's the card I'm talking about.
I've forgotten the name of it, but yeah, that actually does sound curvilicious.
Pretty gas.
Yes.
Like, against in any creature matchup, that has to be game over.
The problem is if you don't have it, you need another way. I think you need another way to get this out. reliably. And maybe that's just not that hard. I mean, 7 mana. People have played some 7 mana cards. I've played a lot with Kiora Best the Sea God in recent weeks. It's not like I often fail to cast it.
So, okay, one of the problems with 7 mana cards is they really do need to like win the game or catch you up pretty hard when you resolve them.
Yeah.
And this card definitely does that in most matchups. Like, terrible against control, so obviously you're not going to do that. And, you know, you probably don't bring this in against rogues, right? But, like, any kind of gruely, you know, mid-rangey, like, food. I imagine this card would wreck food pretty hard.
Turn 5 against Gruul could be pretty epic, yeah.
Yeah, I think that this card could find a home.
Against mono green or mono white, it could be really good.
It could be really good. And this is all... So this is one of the things I don't think that you are pulled into the Giants deck because of this card. I feel like this is more a card which becomes appealing when you have your playable Giants deck.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So a couple of other things that could potentially suck about this card. If you're returning your opponent's sagas to their hand, you're not going to feel good about that. If you're returning your own saga to your hand, that could be kind of gas.
That's true. That is true. There might be a giant-related saga, maybe, that is next to it that we're going to read in a second.
Exactly. Yeah. You could set up some nice curves, I think. This just very much depends on matchups and the shape of the format. Because if this effect is good, if your opponent isn't getting insane value from this effect, or, if you're able to just pull this off early enough in a game, it could just really slam the door.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I sit on this card.
It's one of those situationals. Like, you might never see this card in Standard, but there might also be that 1 to 2 week stretch where suddenly this card is everywhere. Because remember that when the Teamer Energy Mirrors got to this point that River's Rebuke was everywhere for about 2 weeks? Yeah. That's what I envision here.
I could definitely see metas in which this card is just the groan thing, you know? It comes down on turn 5 and you just groan and scoop your cards.
The next Reddit post demanding a ban
goes
to Cyclone Summoner.
Busted.
Oh, we found our clickbait title for the episode.
Indeed we did. All right, well, take us through this next card then.
Battle of Frost and Fire is 3 blue and a red for an enchantment saga at rare. Chapter 1. 4 damage to each non-giant creature and each planeswalker. Chapter 2. Scry 3. Chapter 3. Whenever you cast a spell with converted mana cost 5 or greater this turn, draw 2 cards and discard a card.
All right. First things first, doesn't Battle of Frost and Fire sound like a book in the Game of Thrones series or something?
Yeah. Kind of blatant. Right up there with Jon Snow.
Yep, there's like several rip-off cards in this set for sure.
It even looks like the throne. It looks like the throne on the art. If you look at the top,
we're just gonna have to let that one slide, I suppose. Okay, so for the first chapter is what's the 4-mana sorcery version of this
Storm's
card?
Wrath.
Yeah, so this is like a Storm's Wrath that's pro-giant for 1 more mana.
Yep.
So that's probably not good enough.
Probably not on its own.
Yep, on its own. Scry 3 is nice, I guess. I guess it's supposed to help you set up the 3rd chapter.
Yeah, and it's a little awkward because, I guess you get to go really deep if you don't already have another expensive card to play, for sure. The draw 2 and discard a card is kind of odd, right? Because it doesn't... Why couldn't it just be 2 cards? You're casting a 5-mana spell.
Just give them
2 turns after your 5-mana spell.
Well, maybe the discard is a bonus, right? Maybe we're doing reanimate-y things.
I mean, we talked about Cyclone Summoner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could this go well with Yorion?
It could. Yeah. The first chapter, Yorion survives this. For one thing, so they play together. Chapter 2, Scry 3, then you play Yorion and reset it. You sweep the board again. Probably not necessary that quickly, but you never know. and you set up more Scry 3s. And if Chapter 3 does go off, maybe you use it to play Yorion.
You cast your Yorion, you get some extra cards. So that could line up kind of nicely. It's, get in line for all of the other, 4, 5, and 6 mana cards that want to be blinked with Yorion in this set as well.
Yeah, that's the problem. What do you play what do you cut from your deck to play Battle of Frost and Fire?
Yeah. And here's the thing, I think the issue with this card is that Chapter 1 needs to consistently line up well against the meta. A 5 mana, so casting this on turn 4 or 5 needs to be consistently good in the meta, I think.
It lines up really good with Vivian, the 5 mana Vivian.
I guess that's true, yep.
So that's something.
Wipe your opponent's board there. I don't know.
I do wish every single card that dealt damage to creatures killed a Lovestruck Beast in this environment. I really do. I hate that card so much. I'm so sick of it.
It is very tiresome, I agree. Does this do the thing with the Toralf?
The thing.
So, okay, your opponent has a number of creatures on board. You have Toralf in play. You play this. It deals all excess damage to whatever target you want.
Non-combat. If it's non-combat, yeah.
That could be a lot of damage.
Yeah, it doesn't say from an instant or sorcery, right? It says non-combat. I have to look up this freaking card. Whenever a creature a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage. Yeah. If you have excess damage from that experience, great. It does kill Toralf, so GG.
Yep, that's somewhat of a nombo.
Cringe.
But if first of all it curves, and second of all, if you wipe your opponent's board and deal them some shocking amount of damage to the face, that could be.
If they have all 1/1s, they've played mono 1/1s this game.
I don't know. I'm just reaching here.
They deserve it. At that stage, they deserve it.
Yeah, they deserve it. Yeah, it could be good. I don't know if it's consistently good. Anyway. So this card's a super curveball to me. I really am having a hard time evaluating whether it's any good or not.
Same here, man. Same here.
Yeah. Mystic Reflection. 1 and a blue, instant at rare. Choose target non-legendary creature. The next time one or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature. So your planeswalker can actually be a creature. That's interesting. And you can foretell this for 1 blue mana. So, this card is a Galaxy Brain card, and I'm curious, CGB, if you've come up with any good things to do with it.
Good things to do with it?
How about not good? Fun, interesting, possibility-filled things to do with it.
I think if you take just about any creature or planeswalker in the game and assume a token or some other thing is on the battlefield, you can come up with some nonsense. I think this is one of the most ridiculous cards ever made. I really do. I believe this is an all-out game changer because in case you missed it during that description, they enter the battlefield as copies of the chosen creature, not as whatever the hell they were.
So let me get this straight. Okay, basic scenario. We have just some big creature on the board, and then we go Omen of the Sun, and then with the trigger on the stack, we cast Mystic Reflection. Now we get 2 free copies of whatever that thing was we chose, right?
Yep, and it can be, as long as it's not legendary, it can be your creature or your opponent's. Yep, you're right about that.
So we could do something plausibly, let's say we have a Skyclave Apparition, and then we get 2 more Skyclave Apparitions.
Yes, you could do that.
It's a thing we could do.
Mm-hmm. So does your brain gravitate to how to make more of an awesome creature of your own right away?
Yeah, that is definitely what I was thinking about, for sure.
Well, have you considered turning the mental gymnastics the other way? What if your opponent... What if your opponent is casting Ugin the Spirit Dragon, and you cast Mystic Reflection on your 1/1 token?
So you're just just totally turning their whatever into garbage.
Their Ugin enters as a 1/1, and it stays a 1/1, and it doesn't have any of the abilities of Ugin the Spirit Dragon. It does not plus, it does not minus, it doesn't have loyalty counters. It just is a 1/1. Or a Bertha Meletis wall, if you will.
Yeah, that's pretty gas. All right, what happens if you're in the blue-black mirror, your opponent casts Ugin, you don't have any creatures, but you do have a Crawling Barrens?
Okay.
So that Ugin enters as a copy of Crawling Barrens. Does it die when at the end of the turn, or do they actually get a Crawling Barrens?
It is a Crawling Barrens, the land Crawling Barrens that they receive.
Okay.
An unactivated version. No counters, currently a land.
That's like an emergency play you could make if you had to.
That's not a bad play.
Yeah.
That's Galaxy brain right there. That would get some Pog champs out of the Twitch chat, you know?
Yeah. So you don't just throw here's the thing though, you don't just throw this into your average whatever blue deck, right? So I think the versatility is interesting. I do like the fact that, like, if you put this in your deck, you clearly want to play tokens. I think tokens are good either way, right? Because you can make your opponent's good stuff come in as a copy of your 1/1 token, or you can make your tokens come in as copies of your good stuff. So I think either way, you're incentivized to... Here's another thing, like Castle Ardenvale.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good combo with this card, I would think.
And remember, it has Foretell. So you can set it up so that you can do this for 1 blue. This is a 1 blue polymorph your large creature into a tiny piece of trash.
Yeah.
With some setup. Definitely has setup required. But remember the Foretell card that turns an artifact or creature into a bird?
Yes, I do.
So do you see what I'm saying? Like, you can exile their Lovestruck Beast. They get a bird. They go for Questing Beast. You turn it into a freaking bird.
Into another bird.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not the worst.
Not bad. Not bad. I mean, can't we just have a lot of fun with this and Terror of the Peaks?
Yes, you can also go that route where you have a Scoot Swarm and a lot of triggers and a Terror of the Peaks. I mean, you are already winning that. What more do you
nonsense.
Want? What more do you
That
want?
is just team of nonsense is what that is.
The image is a shark, and Shark Typhoon is a great combo with this too, to instant speed make a 1/1 shark and then turn something into the shark. Right. Or to turn the shark into something bigger.
That's true. You could do that. And if you resolve your Shark Typhoon as a 6-mana permanent, then it gives you something to work with when you cast this.
That is kind of true, but you need the target first.
Oh, do you? Yeah, okay. So
it's also worth noting that they can fizzle this spell, the opponent, if they kill the target.
Mm-hmm.
So watch out for that.
Okay, so the spell is sweet. The question is whether it's good. Like, okay, I'm guessing you don't just play this as like a fun role player. I'm guessing that you have to have like a specific combo to put this in your deck, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you are already running things like Omen of the Sun and Castle Ardenvale and Birth of Meletis, having 1 or 2 of these is an interesting play, but you also could just counter the spell in a lot of scenarios for the output of the mana. So there is definitely a tension with, like, there's a big tension here between what is cool and what is good. So I'm not sold on it being good. I am very sold on it being cool, and I will be messing around to see what I can do with it. It does make the bird card a lot more appealing. The Foretell bird card, because you don't know which Foretell card they have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The place I see this going into the most naturally is just like your average Yorion deck. Like your average Yorion token deck, because you're just going to have a lot of tokens to throw around, and you're probably going to have a situation in which this is worth it. This basically reads like counter your opponent's good thing and they get a wall or whatever.
I think that it fits that really well, because in the past you could run Neutralize, you could run Negate, you could run Essence Scatter in your Yorion Blink deck. And I'm not talking about the full-on control version that runs those cards anyway. I'm talking about the version with Charming Prince. We're on the same page, right? So it's like really focused on the blink mechanic. And that deck really needed something in the late game to act like a counterspell, but it was hard to fit in the cards that I mentioned because they just sat in awkward spots on the curve or they weren't versatile enough. This card might be versatile enough. And it just has all kinds of other applications if you don't need to counter an Ugin. But so, yeah, I think you're right. And that is an 80 card deck, so it's more likely to open up a spot for one or two. I do think that's the most likely thing to happen.
Yeah, but then if your opponent resolves like an Embercleave or a Great Henge, you're going to want to rip your Mystic Reflection up and throw it away. So just a super weird card, and it's one of these cards that may just never show up ever, or it may end up showing up in like a surprising number of fun, weird, janky decks. Mm-hmm. Or in the least likely case, it could end up being a real player, but I think that is very unlikely.
It's also pretty cool if you can set up combos with a saga that's going to make creatures in the future. Like if it has Chapter 2 or Chapter 3 to put a token on the battlefield, that kind of thing.
If there's a deck which can reliably make like a whole bunch of tiny tokens on one turn, then you could just set up like a next turn kill with this. You know, you could do the like make 7 angels, you're just unbelievably dead next turn if you don't deal with them kind of a thing. So this could set up like, you know, like a one turn kill kind of a scenario.
If you play a Harmonious Archon and then with the trigger on the stack, target it with a Mystic Reflection, does it make 2 more Harmonious Archons?
I suppose it does.
It does.
I suppose it does, my
Wait,
friend.
that's awesome.
That's pretty gas.
Okay, I'm done.
We did it. We got there. How much does Harmonious Archon cost?
6.
So if you have for the humble price of 8 mana,
or 7 with Foretold.
There you go.
Yeah.
We get to do the thing. All right, we really did it. Okay, next card. The Bears of Lit Jarrow. 1 green blue. Saga at rare. Chapter 1. Create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter token, creature token with changeling. Chapter 2. Any number of target shapeshifter creatures you control have base power and toughness 4/4. And then, Chapter 3, choose up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Each creature with power 4 or greater you control deals damage equal to its power to that permanent. Alright, interesting card. So, we're probably hoping to have more shapeshifters than just the 2/2 shapeshifter that we made with this thing. Okay, the first question, CGB. Mm-hmm. If you just played this card and you had no other shapeshifters in play, would it be good enough?
I believe that if you handed me a 3 mana 4/4 that entered the battlefield and dealt 4 damage to target permanent, I would be super hyped about that.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
That is unbelievably good.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That's the best Flame Tongue Kavu ever. Yes.
Yeah.
So this is that, but it takes 3 turns.
Mm-hmm. So they see the bite coming.
Yep.
Right? So that does make it worse.
It does.
On a stable board, or on any kind of a gridlocked board, this could definitely be kind of a breaker. And if you have other changelings, especially like small changelings that you would like to have them upgraded to 4/4, then this card starts to get pretty good. This is like one of those weird cards where like it is powerful. It could be a little bit difficult to set up the scenarios in which this is consistently good. And it being in the Simic colors is interesting as well, because Simic decks don't tend to necessarily be like aggressive decks or have a bunch of creatures sitting around. But that was like the Simic we knew in the past. Simic might look different moving forward. So again, this is a card I think how good this is entirely depends, A, on the other shapeshifters in the format, and B, how the format at large looks. But definitely a powerful card, and price to move, I think.
We have a 2 mana shapeshifter that enters the battlefield, exile a creature from your graveyard, destroy target artifact or enchantment.
Yeah, Masked Vandal.
Yeah, my criticism, like that card's really great. My criticism is always of what is it doing on turn 2, because it's not reliable that you'll have something in the graveyard and you might just need to cast it because you have no curve. Well, I mean, here you play it on turn 2, and then you play bears on turn 3, and it's going to become a 4/4. If you compare this with one other shapeshifter on the board so that the opponent killing the bear isn't the end of the road, then you've got a really serious card and an awesome board coming in. It is much closer to a History of Benalia with a removal spell attached than I think we thought it could be. And it also pairs really well if we can find a 4 or greater power creature with flash in these colors, because you could flash it in before Chapter 3 to get the bite effect, even if they played a sweeper or killed the creature that they thought would save their creature.
Yeah. These are all good points. All good points. This card might get pretty embarrassed by Bone Crusher Giant, right?
Okay. It doesn't matter because you just said embarrassed.
Oh.
Get it? Bear. I was going to demand the last word to have the bear joke, and I was going to tell you that, in my opinion, this card is barely playable. But you got the first bear joke in.
We both got there, man. We both got there.
Barely playable.
Barely playable. Yeah. I don't know. Could be good. I feel that way about a lot of these cards. Like, a lot of these cards don't jump out at me immediately as being either like excellent or terrible. I think this is one of the challenges with sagas. Sagas might be the most difficult card type to assess power level. Think about how many sagas have been surprisingly playable, and then other sagas that looked very good that have seen no play.
I think that the biggest thing that's forgettable on sagas is that you get chapters 2 and 3 kind of for free. The cost is already paid, and you have open mana. Mm-hmm. So, like, the cards that you play in that kind of flow with the sagas have a lot to do with the power you get out of the sagas.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So, yeah, curve is super important with sagas. Sequencing is super important. Yeah, it just really, really makes them all very, very difficult to evaluate. So that's one of the reasons we're reading all of them, even the uncommon ones, is that it's an inherently powerful idea. Anyway, just very, very cool. There's another one here. Battle for Brett. Is it your turn to read? I think it's probably your turn to read.
Battle for Bretagod is 1 green-white rare enchantment saga. Chapter 1, create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. Chapter 2, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. Chapter 3, choose any number of artifact tokens and or creature tokens you control with different names. For each of them, create a token that's a copy of it.
Okay.
It's doubling season.
First of all, sweet art, by the way. This has really cool art. Secondly, the baseline is that if you play this and nothing else happens, you'll end up with 4 1/1s.
For 3 mana.
Kind of meh, I think.
I think it's a little understated for the current scenario, so we do need to get paid for some amount of this. We have to get paid for.
All right, so let's say that we were like ambitious gamers. We play this on 3. On turn 4, we play the Chariot, and on turn 5, maybe we're able to like flash in an angel token or something.
How about we, on turn 2, play the Anthem, name Warrior. Then we play this and we get a 2/2. The next turn we get another 2/2, and we make a 4/4 Angel Warrior token, and the next turn it goes off.
And then next turn
or it's a 5/5. 5/5 Angel
5/5
Warrior token.
Yeah, that's a pretty sweet curve, man.
Yeah, I added 1 enchantment that probably not a lot of people are thinking of to it, and all of a sudden this thing made like, what is that, 9 power and toughness? No, more than that, 13 power and toughness.
This is the kind of card that could make that mythic sorcery that we were talking about earlier seem like a better deal.
The mythic sorcery, the angel
one that makes angels.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is Starnheim Unleashed. Yes.
Yeah, because that's one where spending the 4 mana to make it takes it from being probably not playable to being like, well, we get a free one the next turn anyway. So yes. I'm happy to spend my curve on that.
This also curves with the Angel Saga that's coming up, where you play that on 3. You play this on 3. You play the Angel Saga on 4, and on turn 5, you stack your triggers so that you make 2 angels.
Get unbelievably paid. Yeah. So yeah, that could be extremely powerful. I think the problem with this card is that like the fail case is fairly weak. And here's another problem: is that if you're getting beaten down and the tokens you're making are just not quite up to the snuff of blocking or whatever, then you might just lose the game before you really go off with this. So
is the fail case better or worse than Omen of the Sun, a card that has never stopped surprising me by seeing play?
Yeah, that's really such a good question. I'm going to say like the vanilla case of where you just play it and it resolves and then it does its thing. I suppose this is better if you don't need the life gain. The flash on the Omen makes it surprisingly relevant. I think the flash took it from being unplayable to being playable. So maybe that, maybe that's actually in favor of the Omen when I think about it.
Maybe. It's another card that can go in the Transmogrify deck.
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's actually really hard for the opponent to play around the Transmogrify. They have to have an instant, right? Because you make, on turn 4, you make the 1/1 green Elf Warrior token on your turn and can go straight to Transmogrifying it.
Yeah, that's pretty gas. How about this? Supposing you curve this into the Cat Chariot, is that just good enough?
Let's see. The next turn, you get one more cat. You don't get two, because they have to have different names.
Exactly.
So the next turn, you get a bonus cat, and assuming you crew your chariot and attack, you make one more cat.
You get another cat, right? So you're getting a lot of cats.
You made 4 cats, yeah.
And if they all get +1/+1...
Is this all fine? I don't know.
And then you have a bunch of tokens to crew your chariot. I'm trying to think about like the modest scenario and whether that's good enough,
Probably not. Here's another one. This actually fuels both sides of one mind. So 1 mana draw 2.
Okay. Sure.
It's interesting. Like, there's enough going for it. I think it's easy to underrate sagas, but the more you talk about it, the more you're like, these aren't the defining sequences that you come to expect from top-tier decks, but they are a lot of value, and there's a lot of trying to figure out what goes around them. I think the sagas in general just have to be explored. It's like you said, you have to just play with these cards.
You do. And the other thing is they're always hanging out. So as the format evolves, any one of these sagas could just jump up and all of a sudden be fantastic. This next card I'm going to read, I don't know if CGB wants me to read it, but I actually think this card could be pretty good. Nothi, Betrayer King. 3 blue-black for a legendary snow creature zombie wizard at 4/3. Other snow and zombie creatures you control get +1/+1. And you can pay 3 snow mana to return Nothi, Betrayer King from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Why did you read this? Yeah, tell me.
Why did I read this card? All right. So casting it is not the thing. You're not interested in casting this card. However, I do think that if you're milling yourself, which you could easily be doing, or maybe discarding this card for value, and then getting it back, or getting it back after your rogue's opponent milled it into your graveyard, then I think it could start to be very good.
Okay, a 4/3 for 3 tapped for 3, even as a free card from the graveyard, is garbage in my opinion. So I'm guessing you're into it for the Lord. Like, the Lord thing seems like it has to do something for me. So what are the snow and zombie creatures you're pumped about?
I'm not sure about the zombie creatures, but it looks like there's going to be plenty of snow creatures in this set.
Are there good cheap ones? Do we have any good cheap snow creatures?
Who knows?
Well, I guess, yeah, we'll just have to be on the lookout for it, I suppose.
I'm not billing this card as like a automatic include or whatever, but I think that this thing's priced to move if you're getting it from the graveyard. It's a free card, right? Hopefully it's a free card if you're doing it right. You pay 3 mana anytime you have the 3 mana available. It's a recurring threat as well. Your opponent has to actually exile it if they want to deal with it permanently. So yeah, I think that all of this could add up to being a playable card. Absolutely.
It feels like a companion almost, like the free card nature. And I'm still, I don't know why, I'm still really skeptical because I'm like, I don't know when or I pay 3 mana for a 4/3 tapped and I'm happy. I just maybe with a Great Henge, I don't know.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, you could easily have plenty of other better things to be doing. Yeah, I don't know. This card could be surprisingly annoying. Free cards, man. Free cards that you get from the graveyard is not to be scoffed at in my experience. Okay, read Clarion Spirit for us.
1 and a white for a 2/2 creature spirit. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying.
Hero of Precinct 1. Are we doing it?
Hero of Precinct 1, no. You have to cast 2 spells a turn, which is generally doing it as it is. Double spelling is an important thing in Magic. Getting another bonus on top of that is something. There is the Shacklegeist, I think it's called, where it's like tap 2 spirits to tap target creature, if I remember correctly, which is a pretty cool card with this. Just tapping down the opponent's board and making more and more stuff. A super low curve spirit deck could exist. It's hard to see where its good matchups would be, but it's interesting.
This is another card which makes me want to look back at that 2-mana Anthem.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
because
exactly.
like that is both a cheap spell and something that makes all your spirits very relevant. You don't need that many 1/1 spirit tokens getting pumped up to 2/2s with that thing to start to really feel like you're doing it.
I feel like I need 1-drop. Like 1-drop spirits would be good. So would 1-mana adventure spells, because on adventure cards you get 2 spells. So you play one side one turn, the next turn. So that's what I'm looking for.
You know, Giant Killer could fit very easily into this deck. And it's a 1-mana creature with a 3-mana adventure, you know? But like, it's a fine thing to do on turn 4.
If the format's right, it's good. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. This card is another. I mean, like Hero of Precinct 1, that card was sometimes good and sometimes not good enough. And hard to tell whether this is better or worse than that. The token being a flyer is big game.
That's pretty nice.
That's really big game. And I'll tell you what, I am terrified of this card in Limited. I mean, if you have a Limited card with like 2 or 3 of these in your deck because it's an uncommon, and then you're just triggering this all over the place, yeah, lights out. So anyway, I think this is a very good uncommon.
Could be very good with the Foretell card, turning everything either into 1/1 flying spirits.
Heck yeah, that's what I'm talking about. How about Agar the Freezing Flame? 1 blue-red for a legendary creature giant wizard at 3/3. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess damage, if a giant wizard or spell you control dealt damage to it this turn, draw a card. What do you think?
Well, we talked briefly about this card when mentioning the, like, I want to call it under my thumb squash. That's the card.
Yeah.
And I don't think this card is it. You know, I just don't see running this.
This isn't the Innkeeper of Giants?
No, I don't think this is our Edgewall Innkeeper. I think it's asking too much to not only have this on the board, but also have a spell that's going to deal excess damage when so often Standard is very powerful and we're just trying to do enough damage. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think this is it.
I think I agree with you, and I was actually fairly low on this card with my initial read. I think the trick here is that your giants are supposed to be big, and it's supposed to be like every time your giant does damage to a creature or a planeswalker or whatever, it's dealing excess damage. And so the theory is that basically every time your giant's dealing damage to not your opponent's face, you're drawing a card off of this. So definitely in the scenario in which you have this card and you have one or more other giants on the battlefield and you're tangling with your opponent's creatures and stuff, this could start to make things very annoying for your opponent. But that's a number of ifs to line up, and you know, this isn't super impressive on its own. And a 3/3 for 3, here's the thing, a 3/3 for 3 that has an upside ability is so much less interesting than a 1/1 for 1. Imagine if the Innkeeper was a 3/3 for 3. How would you feel about playing that card?
Meh.
It would be hard to fit it in, right?
Yeah, think of I think it's Savvy Hunter is the food one that can draw a card and makes a food when it attacks, and it's a 3/3. Think of Rada, Heart of Keld, which is a 3-mana 3/3 that I think is 10 times better than this, that sees almost no play.
Yeah. So that's the problem, is that starting at 3 mana, we expect our cards to be like the actual card and not the payoff card.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card probably doesn't see play.
Agree.
I think it's worth talking about. All right, this next card is very, very interesting, though, so go ahead and read that for us.
Firja's Retribution, 1 white, white, black. Enchantment Saga. 1, create a 4/4 white Angel Warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. 2. Until end of turn, angels gain tap, destroy target creature with power less than this creature's power. 3. Angels you control gain double strike until end of turn. We've talked about what a 4/4 angel token can do on multiple cards, and here is a saga that just right off the bat hits you with the angel token. And if that angel token lives, it gains more abilities, none of which are bad.
No. I mean, if you get all 3 chapters on this thing could just win the game for you single-handedly.
You need an angel to live. That's the big thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the one that popped out of this either.
Yep, Legion Angel, for example. We talked about the card that I just introduced myself to, so it's always hard to remember the name. But, anyway. Where all the 4/4 warrior angels come from. Retreat from Emeria?
From Emeria's
right. Retreat? Yeah. Starnheim Unleashed is the mythic card that makes angel tokens. Yep.
Imagine a curve like this. Turn 4, you make an angel. Turn 5, you find any other way to make an angel. Like, we actually have that other enchantment that makes an angel at 5, right? That we previewed a long time ago.
Or cast Baneslayer Angel.
Sure, cast Baneslayer Angel. Okay.
With double strike.
The following turn, if you had just 2 4/4 angels, the following turn, assuming they live, you get to crack for 16 in the air.
That's probably good.
That could just close out the game on its own. So, and then all the rest of this card, like that other chapter, is just gravy.
Well, saucy gravy, right?
It's saucy gravy. Yeah,
your angel token has vigilance, so you get to attack and use this ability to kill an opposing creature.
Yep, that's very, very true. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at a card that could definitely just like a turn 4 play that, if supported properly, could just win the game on its own. It's also, I mean, we'll just keep saying it, curves very nicely into Yorion.
Who? What card is that?
Who's that? Yori who?
Yoria? What?
Yeah, our favorite bird. Big Bird. So, I don't know, man. I mean, there's a lot to like about this card. I am definitely going to try it.
Yeah, this card is pretty sweet. It makes me really sad that Starnheim Unleashed isn't an instant.
Right.
Because
so
if you could...
Yeah.
If you could foretell that in or cast that, oh my gosh. However, I think I saw it. I think there is a Flash Angel in the set. If we get like a Retribution Angel to go with this, that could, I mean, I don't know. It could be really interesting. Because Retribution Angel, if it blinked a permanent, would blink this, and it would be so sweet.
Oh my goodness.
Restoration Angel, not Retribution Angel, my bad.
Restoration, Boomer like cards. This is a blink target. Getting a 4/4, getting a Sarah Angel for free, basically. Mm-hmm. That is definitely worth your while to be blinking. So, yep, these 4/4 Angel tokens, unless everything about this theme is just not good enough, I think we're going to see a lot of 4/4 Angel tokens flying around in this format.
I feel like it's a Yorion set with the amount of sagas we've seen. Like
yeah,
I feel like every single saga, what goes through my head is what I should do is just a series where I just make a Yorion deck around every freaking saga in the set.
Dude, think about, like, you could easily make just like a Yorion saga deck where the curve starts at 2 with Birth of Meletis, and then every turn thereafter you're just trying to resolve a saga, and then you just get these like wild chains of value over the next number of turns, right?
Yeah, and eventually you cast Dance of the Manse and get them all back.
But yeah, it clearly could be a Doom Foretold deck. That would be very fun.
Enchantment Tribal, baby. Let's go.
Dude, it sounds incredibly fun, and it definitely sounds like the kind of deck that could crush a fool under the right circumstances. So, but definitely call me a buyer on Firja's Retribution. This definitely looks like one of the more immediately playable sagas we've seen in the set.
I completely agree.
Awesome.
By the way, is
sauce.
Doom Foretold worse because sagas are so good? Because the opponent will always have something to sacrifice.
Good question. I suppose it depends on how good the saga is and also whether the saga is front-loaded or back-loaded, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, Doom Foretold's probably not going to be that great against Firja's Retribution, but it is probably going to be really good against, like, the green... the red-green landfall one at 6, right?
I guess Doom Foretold should be decent against 6 drops, in my opinion.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It better be.
Yeah, so...
But yeah, I'm wondering if we just scrap the Doom Foretold, just all sagas.
Just Saga Tribal.
Just Retribution instead of Doom Foretold.
This sounds like an early access deck to me. Reidane, God of the Worthy. 2 and a white, legendary creature god at rare. It is a 2/3 flying vigilance. Snowlands your opponent's control. Enter the battlefield tapped. Hallelujah. 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 But wait, there's more. Non-creature spells your opponent's cast with converted mana cost 4 or greater cost 2 more to cast. There is, however, more text on this card. CGB, read the back for us.
Valkmira, Protector's Shield, is the DFC side of this. 3 and a white for a legendary artifact. If a source an opponent controls would deal damage to you, or a permanent you control, prevent 1 of that damage. Whenever you or another permanent you control become the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1.
Very hateful card here.
Taxes are back on the menu, boys.
So let's start with the creature side. While I'm not going to call this card an auto-include, this card could make life very difficult for your opponent. And the play pattern that I'm thinking of is... In this theoretical aggro deck that may or may not ever be supported in Standard. But how good do you feel if you go, especially against your control opponent, you go turn 1, 1 drop, turn 2, 2 drop, turn 3, this drop, and now your opponent is essentially locked out from wrathing you in any kind of time frame that they would want to do so.
I mean, is my opponent also a Snowland player? Because it might be turn 7 before they can shatter the sky.
Yeah, I mean, this could just be utterly backbreaking. So Shatter the Sky, obviously the best card to hate out with this.
No, I'm sorry. The best is definitely Extinction Event. That card has been a huge thorn in the side of white, and this is an awesome card against it.
Awesome counter against that. Yep, and also... as if anyone was playing it, but Storm's Wrath. It's another card that this card hates out. Any saga that costs 4 or more.
There's a lot of them.
Yep. Who knows whether Planeswalkers are going to be big in this set, but this taxes your opponent's Tyvar Kel. This basically makes it impossible for your opponent to get a Tybalt down, or an Ugin for that matter. So I think that Reidane is doing a lot for your white aggressive deck. That's what I'm thinking.
I think this card is insanely real, and I don't think it's confined to aggressive decks. Because if you think about the non-creature spells your opponent's cast require the tax, you are going to be playing ECD way before they can ECD you back.
ECD is just not good.
Oh my gosh.
We just got on the field.
Yeah, I mean, just think of any kind of haymaker battle that's all about, I play my 5 mana, I play my 6 mana. Those mid-range wars that are often throwing planeswalkers at each other. This card just dominates it. They have to kill it.
Okay, here's some other excellent points. Does a Gruul Mage want to play against this card? No, they do not. Think about it. You can't curve into your Great Henge. And you also, your Embercleave is a lot harder to cast as well.
That's
right?
true. Yep.
And this can't be Bone Crush, so you actually have to spend like
a what?
Dragonfire.
A lot of them have nothing.
Yeah. And here's the other thing is that in order to spend... Am I right in thinking that in order for your opponent to deal enough damage with to this with Shatter Skull Smashing, they need to pay 2 extra?
Yes, you're right.
Yep. So this you can't target this with Shatter Skull. So it's basically Dragonfire or a fight spell or bust.
And wreck the Snowlanders. Again, if they're doing anything with snow for whatever reason, this card is so... And we're only talking about the front side, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's true. But the front side just looks maddening to me. I see many matchups where your opponent just curves into this on turn 3 and you look at your hand and you're just like, crap.
Yeah.
If I don't have my removal right now, this thing is just gonna kind of dominate.
And the other thing about just, okay, well, they'll just play removal, right? I mean... Is it that easy? It has to be cheap removal, and the other plays that you've made have to not demand removal. Like, there's a lot of things that people want to remove. Cast a Skyclave Apparition, see how long it lives. That thing's a lightning rod. So, it's going to be a really frustrating card to deal with. And the backside is not a joke either. And again, this is the kind of thing where this card was borderline. I think it was a pretty good card, but probably a sideboard card because it was matchup dependent. And then the backside is definitely not a main deck card. Maybe not even a playable standard card on its own. But when you combine it into one card, suddenly it like just having this effect available in your deck attached to something that was pretty good that can now be really good, it's kind of nice. The damage prevention is super annoying. If the opponent does go low to where the first side isn't very effective, then it's probably going to be a deck that is affected by having damage prevented. And you know what I mean? Mono red is, they're not going to like that.
No, although I do want to point out this doesn't do anything against Bone Crusher Giant.
Oh yeah, because it doesn't. Yeah, that's true.
Because of the claws. But I totally agree.
Wait, they have to pay 1 more or it's countered.
That's true. No, that's a good point.
They might forget that.
Yeah.
It also says ability, right? So
that like very relevant.
Yeah, ECD just gets countered if they pay 5 and target your thing with it, and they don't have the 1.
So that's brutal as well because they won't get taxed on resolution. Like they get taxed when the trigger goes on the stack. So they don't have
no takesy backsies.
Yeah. That's super brutal. I think that what's going to happen is that people are going to resolve both sides of this card, and then their opponents are going to end up in these like situations where they're like, wait, why can't I cast my spell? Wait, why didn't that work? Wait, what's happening right now? And then they have to like go back and read the card, and then they're like, oh crap.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of that beautiful moment when your opponent starts hovering over the card, and you're like, yeah, I got you. How about this card versus Mayhem Devil?
Oh, yeah, that's...
There might be a white deck in Historic someday, you know?
Oh my gosh. That's so gas, dude. That's just so gas. The more I read this card and think about it, the more I like it. Okay, these taxation effects can be very good, but just by itself, this card isn't super hard hitting. So you definitely need the rest of your deck to work well in the curve. You need to have a game plan. You know, you need to actually have a deck.
That's why in the aggro deck, I'm thinking sideboard because, like, are you going to take out Skyclave Apparition? Are you going to take out Maul of the Skyclaves?
Yeah,
probably not. But the mid-range decks, I'm like, oh, this is so mean.
It's mean. And definitely, against any sweeper deck, this is just load them up. Load them up and go to town. Definitely, I think this card could definitely be a strong role player in Standard and could show up a surprising amount.
Yes.
Okay, we have our next one in this cycle of tap lands with an ability here. So, Guard Armory. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. It taps for 1 white mana. You can pay 1 red, white, tap, and sacrifice it to search a library for an aura card and/or an equipment card. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So, if you're getting both sides of the buffalo with this, your land essentially got you 2 cards, and one of them's probably an Embercleave.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree that that is totally gas. Now, here's the question again, CGB. Is it worth playing a tap land in your probably aggro deck?
I think this is one. I think this is like the worst one of these. Because if I'm playing a deck that runs equipments and auras, what I need are creatures to put them on, not equipments and auras. So, and like Halvar, God of Battle, is a creature on the front, so you can't fetch it with this, So I think that this one misses the mark by a lot, in my opinion.
For me, it's just a tap land in a Boros deck, and that just kills it right there. I think it could say almost anything on it, and I just wouldn't be that interested in it. But having your utility land fetch up Embercleave, that's compelling. That's compelling. Alright folks, that's a wrap for this one. Keep an eye out for the next, which will be released shortly.